All right, guys, so I think we're gonna start. First off, thank you everyone for joining and our panelists for being here and just everyone for participating. We know you've probably been in 100 virtual meetings and get-togethers by now, so this is very much our norm for God knows how long. But thank you so much for being here. This is going to be really exciting. So basically, I'll give a little rundown of the industry in Spanglish and why we decided to do this. I started my career in the music industry along with Vanessa and Angel, and we all kind of noticed through our different experiences that we all had one thing in common, which was, noticing that Latinos are very underrepresented within the labels, within the entertainment space. We don't really see a lot of each other in our own spaces, let alone within upper management, right? And so a lot of the times, you don't want to be the token Latina, don't want to be the only voice at the table. And as time goes on and you do meet other people with your similar background and stories and experiences, you kind of realize this is something bigger than us, right? This is a community that we have to create, something that we have to foster. And so we decided to create this platform, and it's been nothing but positivity all around, right? From people at labels, from people that want to get into the music industry. It's just really beautiful to see so many minorities, so many Latinos getting together and networking and just being able to form a cohesive community where we can grow and network and be able to just really form the community that we need, and not just be like separated in our own little mindsets, but be able to just form a cohesive unit. So this is a platform that we hope is able to cater to all minorities, really, but this is just something that we found we needed within the music industry. And so thank you everybody for participating and for supporting this initiative. It really means a lot to all of us.
Thank you.
Having us. Jen?
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I thought you were going to add something else. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Mota, and I'm your moderator for today. I've been working closely alongside with the industry in Spanglish for close to a year now, and I am extremely proud of the amount of insight and knowledge that the team has been able to spread with these panels, starting with a panel on A&Rs, right? Today we highlight artist managers in our community, and the artist manager is a plethora of things, right? We were having this conversation before the panel started. The manager is an analyst, is an advisor, a strategist, a negotiator, a right hand, sometimes even a therapist, a babysitter, many things depending on the relationship. And this role is essential to the formation and evolution of the artist. And today we will explore the personal journeys of today's key players. I'm extremely excited for this panel today. I've worked with some of you are my colleagues, and some of you I'm gonna get to know today. I'm gonna start introducing everyone, and I'm gonna start with Jocelyn Rivera, my bad. And she has, okay, Jocelyn Rivera She has worked with popular artists like Don Q, Chef G, Sleepy Hollow, and has created partnerships with a long list of big-time brands and labels, including Def Jam, Empire, Live Nation, Sony, SiriusXM, Rock Nation, and so many more. Today, her sights are set on growing Pressplay, where she is managing partner, by the way, in order to create a bigger impact for our artists, our partners, and our larger community. Jocelyn, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Moving along to Peter Robles. He's the owner of Aquos Entertainment. Correct me if I pronounced that the wrong way.
Don't worry. Sometimes they say bunny rubbles, like the Flintstones. So I'm cool.
Okay. And it's a management and entertainment consulting company, including services like image development, public relations, endorsements, brand integration, music and TV production, music publishing, and more. Robles has influenced and developed the careers of many of the biggest Latin artists, producers, and television personalities, including the likes of Rafael Amaya, Sage, Tito Puente Jr., David Colos PNC, Music Factory, A.B. Quintanilla, and Sergio George. Peter Robles, thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us.
No, thank you for having me, and I'm very happy to be on this panel with all my other colleagues.
Great, we're excited. Moving on to Lex Borrero. He is the president of Neon 16, which he co-founded alongside award-winning producer artist Tiny. Under his leadership, Neon has produced 4 global #1 songs, including Agua from the upcoming animated film, the SpongeBob movie SpongeBob on the Run, Un Día, One Day, Adicto, and Calladita. He is also conquering the spheres of entertainment, art, fashion, and has expanded into the world of film, executive producing the upcoming soundtrack for SpongeBob 3, and more to be announced. We're looking forward to that. In August, he collaboratively launched Human X, a charity multimedia initiative with the purpose of sending messages of humanity to generate revenue and support causes that take care of those in need. Lex, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be able to share everything with you guys.
Yay. Moving on to Yvette Medina, who started her music industry career in 2003 at Creative Artist Agency in Los Angeles, where she was able to work with a wide array of artists from Blink-182, Enrique Iglesias, Bon Jovi, and Ricky Martin. What's up with my Anglo's voice today? And in the process, realized her passion was for Latin music. She's had the pleasure of working as label manager at Sony Music Latin for artists like Romeo Santos, Pitbull, Calle 13, Alexis y Fido, and others. After opening her own company and continuing working with Pitbull as head of marketing, she also became a general manager of Rock Nation Latin. In 2018, she returned to artist management, continuing with her own company, creative management firm, CMF, where she currently works with artists like Paloma Mami and Echo. Yvette, thank you for being here.
For having me.
All right, and lastly, we have Stephanie Santiago Rolon, who is a Latina millennial entrepreneur from Puerto Rico. She is one of the few women executive figures within the Latin urban music space and has a passion for advocacy of rights, specifically for creators of color and female diversity and inclusion, seeing the lack of Spanish language material within the United States Copyright Office. In September of 2019, she incited the initial informational copyright pamphlets, which are now able to briefly educate the Latin community in their native language. She is the founder of Elevated Music Industries, a boutique management and digital marketing firm, and co-founder of Conciencia Collective, an alliance against racial and social injustice composed of 35 plus executives from the Latin music industry. Stephanie also developed TCC Latin, Take Creative Control Latin, and manages artists like Noemi Vasquez La Pesa and producer CRVV. Correct me if I said it wrong.
The Crew.
Crew? Okay.
Crew.
Producer, The Crew. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for being here. We're excited to have you all.
Thank you guys so much for having me tonight.
Yes, and we have so many people attending, and they're really excited to know more about each personal journey in the industry, specifically with understanding the moment you realized you wanted to pursue this career and what's the current work that you do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with Peter and then move on, since it's a few of us, just to keep it organized.
All right. So you want me to talk about when I first started and then how I decided to get into the business?
Sure, and your personal journey.
Oh, okay. Well, well, I started in this business when I was 19. I'm not gonna say my current age, but I wasn't involved in the music industry. Initially, I was involved when I first came out of the Navy. I went to work for nonprofit agencies, and I got involved in politics. So I became the delegate for the 72nd Assembly District of New York. So I covered the entire area from Harlem all the way up to Washington Heights, going into Marble Hill in the Bronx. And in working with the youth of New York City in the different nonprofit aspects, I ran into a lot of kids that were doing rap or into music. And so a few of them would start asking me, hey, we like your vibe, you understand us, can you be my manager? I'm like, nah. I wasn't into it. My focus was something else. My focus was, continuing to grow in politics. But as those youngsters kept pretty much being persistent and asking me, they called me on a good day and I said, you know what, fine. I'll help you out. I'll guide you, but that's it. Lo and behold, as I started helping them out, looking at contracts, going into the studio, pretty much a natural knack came in terms of helping with the music production, with writing, and I was enjoying it. But it was two different lives, because I was involved in hip hop, and I was involved in reggae music, and I was involved in freestyle. But that didn't coincide with my lifestyle in terms of being this executive in the political world. So one of the two had to give. And I said, you know what? I like the music side of things better. So I moved into the music, and I guess because my grandfather was into music on my mother's side, my dad, as being Latino, you know that every weekend you're playing music in the house, and while you're cleaning, you're listening to loud salsa, merengue, and all that. So that's instilled in every Latino as a young kid. And I started off in managing some hip hop artists and some freestyle artists, and it just started evolving. And as it started evolving, I took the time, because with this business, yeah, you're gonna learn as you go, but you also have to take the time to obviously buy the books. Everyone knows the famous books that are out there. Everything that has to do with music business, publishing. And I started also learning about the legal aspect of it, because I was doing a lot of contract negotiations. And then just one thing led to another, and it just started evolving. And I love music, and I love what I do, and I continue to grow until then in '96, I moved down to Miami. And at that point I had to switch over to the Latin side, because in New York, I was involved on the American side of things, which I've done completely differently. And when I moved to Miami, and obviously I'm shortening up this whole entire span of my 20-something years in the industry. When I came to Miami, they were into that booty music, which I had no freaking understanding of. It was the whole Uncle Luke thing and shake what your mama gave you. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Because up in New York, I'm in a whole different thing. I'm into house music, reggae, like I said before. And so I said, you know what? I know Spanish, I speak well, let me flip it. And I started here in my very first artist, which I started working with, which I met actually at a club, because when I came down here, I had to start from zero. I had to network and meet people. I would go out to clubs. My sister and I would go out to clubs every single night just to meet people. And the first artist that I met was Tito Puente Jr. And that's who I signed. And from there, then I began my journey in the Latin market, which then from there, Tito Puente Jr., Proyecto Uno, fulanito, and then it just started going. So that's in a nutshell. It's pretty much my journey. I also did 2 years at Univision, so that gave me my TV production. That was a school for me. I learned a lot about TV production, and that's how I got into managing TV talent and actors and film and TV hosts and sports anchor.
Amazing story. Thank you, Peter. Stephanie, how about you tell us a little bit about your journey?
So, Peter, actually, I as well have a background in TV. That's actually how I started within like entertainment. So I actually started at Univision, and then I went on to Telemundo. Especially at Telemundo, I was dealing with, the different events that were going on, marketing and all that type of, fun stuff. And I was seeing how it was that artists would get booked, what it took to run a 30,000 person event, and it was something that was really beneficial for me later on when I understood, like, okay, wait a minute, I think I could do this. And I actually started with a girl locally from Orlando. Her name is Adriana Gomez. She had a song that had already hit a million plays, and for somebody from Castleberry, Florida, with a song with 1 million plays, it was like, hold up, what's going on here, So, we started talking, and she reached out to me, and she's like, Steph, like, what do you think? Like, you think we could do something? And I said, let's try. I mean, I don't think this should be so hard, like, you just gotta book some gigs and all that type of stuff. So, I mean, first gig booked, and it was amazing. And ever since then, like, I just fell in love with everything that entails being a manager, for somebody, being there for somebody, really seeing this vision. Sometimes when they're on a low, when they can't see it, like that's what drives me into being what I'm doing right now. So, she was my first artist, and definitely I learned so much from that. So
amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Jocelyn, tell us a little bit about your journey.
So I started off as a blogger. So I wrote for a lot of different hip hop sites, music sites, doing kind of mainstream stuff. Then I kind of just started trying to figure out what else I could do with the kind of writing or whatever the case may be. So at the time, while I was still in college, I was helping out this woman who had this like event space. So I was helping her just fill it up, whatever the case may be. She asked me to start throwing events for like a younger crowd. So I started throwing music showcases there for her. After every show, all the artists come to me like, oh, like, what else do you do? What else do you do? I'm like, I mean, I don't know, but I guess I could blog about you guys for some of the sites. I started doing that. A lot of different people started picking up some of my writing. They really liked it and stuff like that. When I graduated school, I just decided, you know what? I like the music industry. I want to figure out how I can be a part of this or whatever it is. So I started writing a lot of different A&Rs, different managers, stuff like that. I'm like, yo, I don't need any money because I'm making money off like the writing and stuff like that. So I mean, like, I just want to help. I just want to be around. So I started working. I was doing freelance work over at Shady Records. That was my first, I guess you could say, music industry job. They showed me a lot about just kind of like PR, press kind of stuff. They showed me how to do tons of different things when it comes to consulting and stuff like that. So I learned that. Then I figured out I just had to do something that kind of would just take my name to kind of the next level. That somebody reached out to me and they wanted me to help them with the show. So they had this big event space in Long Island City. So they're like, yo, you want to help me just book some stuff, book some acts and stuff like that? I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll try it. Why not? So I invited a bunch of the A&Rs that I had been talking to from different labels or whatever, and they all came. The event was like super, super packed, wrapped around the building like crazy. I was just like, wow, this is like my moment or whatever. So I had like a whole bunch of big acts at the time, like Flip De Niro and stuff like that were coming up or whatever. But I had this one act that I really liked, and I asked them just to come because somebody had like wasn't able to do it. I had them perform. They did really well, and after the show, they're like, yo, just help us with PR or whatever. So I did that for a while. And I got them on tons of different things. So they were on like 197, Power 105, Sirius XM, whatever. Because I was just kind of like, just trying, I really believed in them. So I tried out. So they asked me to be their manager. I did that for a while. It started going really well. So then it just kind of blew up. Tons of other bigger artists started to notice me. Then the Highbridge team kind of saw my work. They wanted me to be there. Chef G and their team wanted me to be there. I started doing more freelance work for Atlantic Records. I started doing more for their like newer artists that were coming up. They couldn't figure out like branding strategies for them. They called me in to do that. So by that point, I figured I needed to kind of create a company, create like an LLC, something like that, so that I can start receiving checks somewhere. So I created the brand. A lot of people kind of took to it, started to grow a lot more than that. So then I started doing freelance projects at Def Jam. I became a project manager at Empire. I started working on projects with them. I just kind of started blowing up. I started to get a lot of different contracts, a lot of different newer artists, and I just started creating more brand strategy. So it's all pretty new still, but it's really blowing up really fast. So I'm really happy about that.
Dope. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. Lex, tell us about your experience.
So, you know, like Peter, I've been in this business now about 17 years. So I'll make it as kind of quick as possible. I started as a producer originally. You know, I actually didn't even want to be in music or had no music bug, or, you know, my family listened to music like any other Latin family, but I wasn't necessarily inclined to be in that. I actually loved design. I loved architecture. I loved building. And I think till this day, I use that approach at everything that I do. But as life would have it, you know, I really wanted a pair of Jordans. And so there was a kid in my school who happened to rap and sing, and he was pretty popular. And so I approached him about doing some music together and getting in the studio and seeing what we could do. And ultimately that artist went on to get signed by Universal, and we had our first distribution and did kind of the touring. And then I decided I wanted to pursue being a producer. And so I left to New York and struggled extremely hard while I would hustle my beats and win beat battles in New York when that was a thing, and going to music conferences was a thing. And I would stand outside the old Sony studios in New York giving my demos to Shaw Money when G-Unit was a thing, and Matthew Knowles. And as surely enough, as that started to happen, I started to get positioning as a producer. I started to understand how the business worked. And I met Tony Perez and Blue Williams at the time, who had a family tree, and Tony was managing some producers, and Blue had Outkast at the time. And so that kind of started letting me into management. I started really understanding what their world was in. And then I started working with them, working on producing for their artists as well as managing. And I started liking what the business had a lot more than the creative or being in the studio, I would say, because I still have a very big hand in creative. But and so as that progressed, I mean, and I'm kind of skipping over a bunch of years, but as that progressed, I went on to start a publishing company where I happened to find these producer songwriters from Miami called the Monsters and Strangers. And you know, they went on to have huge success and multiple #1 hits. And then from that, I created a company called 1916, where we pretty much at one point just represented, you know, we had like 20 songs of the top 40 records on Billboard, and sold that business, left to run Universal Canada, right in the midst of the Canadian boom. And I've been blessed enough throughout my career to kind of get to the place right before everything got hot. So I got to LA before the songwriting community really moved to LA and became a thing. I got to Toronto right before the Toronto explosion happened. So I got to see a lot of the projects like The Weeknd and Alessia Cara and Shawn Mendes, and, you know, be a part of all those projects early on and grow that as I was, you know, helping create and run Universal Canada. And then I left and decided that I wanted to come down to Miami to what I thought was retiring. And, you know, sure, behold, life put Tiny as my neighbor. And just like Peter, I mean, he just started coming over, hanging out. We had a lot of the same taste in art and culture. And you know, he had a lot of things that needed help on. And so I started helping him as a friend, really just building with him. And he became like my little brother. And that ultimately grew to become what Neon is today. And that's kind of like, again, small run cap of of my whole career, but you know, blessed enough to have experience how to run a label, how to run a successful publishing company, and ultimately how to be a great manager and connect the dots. So you know, it's a privilege to have been able to experience everything in my career.
Dope. Thank you so much, Lex, for sharing your experience. Yvette, share us, how about you share your journey with us?
Yeah. So in college, I went to college to, I have a political science degree. So I went to college thinking I wanted to be an entertainment attorney. But as you know, you start doing all the internships and whatnot, it was to me kind of boring. I just didn't see myself just doing that paperwork and things like that. It so happened that I was able to get a job as an assistant for a booking agency. This is in San Diego, where entertainment isn't really, you know, as big as it is in LA, New York, a lot of different opportunities. This was literally like the one company that booked DJs. At the time, it was like house music was a big thing. So they booked, you know, Bad Boy Bill and DJ Richard Humpty Vision and things like that. So they started, you know, booking, and I was their assistant, and I loved it, but I was only 19. So I never got to go to any of the events. And my first event when I turned 21 was Ultra. And so I was amazed that that's the type of thing that we were working on. I had no idea. And I loved it. I said, that's exactly what I want to do. And so I graduated from UC San Diego. And when I moved back to LA, I got a job at CAA in the music department. And I was lucky enough to get the assistant position for Daryl Eaton, who he, to me, is so dope as an agent. He just represents so many different aspects of the music industry. He created the Warped Tour. He represented Blink-182 and also Pepe Aguilar and also Enrique Iglesias. It was just like a wide array of things. And being his assistant, just, he really was like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be an agent. Like, to me, booking was everything. And, you know, he began to show me how to do all that. And eventually I moved desks, they say, you know, to another agent. And I with Chris Dalston, who did international. So as I kept working with more artists like Shakira and Bon Jovi and all these other different artists, I was totally loving it, but I was also the only Latina. So the Latin thing kind of just fell on my plate because, you know, they had a lot of Latin artists, and I was the only one that spoke Spanish. And I was like, I love it. This is amazing. That's like my niche. And so eventually I moved to Miami and worked at William Morris also in the booking in Latin. And as time went on, Ricky Martin's camp, who I had been cool with since CAA, and they were always kind of, you know, the ones that recommended me for different things. They said that there was an opportunity at, I told them I wanted to move to New York, and they said that there was an opportunity that might work for me. And so I said, amazing. But it was at Sony Latin in Miami, being his label manager. And I honestly didn't know anything about working at a label, but I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I ended up working at Sony Latin, and I was lucky enough to eventually get to meet Pitbull. And even though he wasn't signed to Sony as an artist, he was a distributed artist, we landed up hitting it off, and he landed up telling Sony that, you know, he wanted me to be his label manager. And from that point on, I started working his project, and eventually was able to also, when Romeo went solo, I was able to work on his project. And so from there, after 2 years at Sony, I left with Pitbull to be the head of marketing for him, his brand, and the label that he was starting, Mr. 305. I was with Pitt till 2016. And then from there, when Romeo became the CEO of Rock Nation Latin, he, you know, I always had a great relationship with Romeo as his label manager and throughout those years. So he brought me on board to work on the Latin division. And after 2 years at Rock Nation, I landed up going back to management again. And I have now, you know, signed Echo, who's one of the leaders of trap music from Argentina, and then Paloma Mami as well. So that's kind of like the short run of it all.
Amazing. Thank you, Yvette. And this is why I say it's an all-star panel. I mean, every panelist has had its own respective journey, and it's a special journey, right? And I think that within these journeys, a lot of our attendees can see themselves in, or can learn a lot from the experience. When we first started, we mentioned the role of the artist manager and how it's multifaceted. There's a lot of things that is encapsulated in this role. And I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about how this role is different or distinct from the other roles that falls under, and well, that exist in the music industry. And if you believe there are any misconceptions when it comes to your position in the industry. And we can start with Peter and just go on in the same order.
Okay. Well, let's start off first with and get it out of the way with the misconception. The misconception that artists or individuals have with an artist manager or talent manager is that they think that we're going to come in and put money out of our own pockets. That is not the case. A manager is not the person who invests into your career. Usually the case may be where you have an investor, or let's say you're signed to an independent label, or you're signed to a major. Those are the people or the companies that invest money into your career. Now, there might be times where a manager sees and says, you know what? No one is coming in to the rescue to invest in your career. I believe in you enough. Let's work out a different deal where not only am I your artist manager, but I am also let's say your label or your production company. And then that kind of like creates a different business. Now, that's out of the way. That's one of the misconceptions and the main one, pretty much. They come to you and they think that you're going to put the money in their careers. That's not the case. A manager is here to guide you, create structure, bring you into their network, the relationships that you've built throughout the years. That's what pretty much a manager does. But we do go into so many areas that a lot of people either don't see or even artists don't appreciate. And I know there's a lot of artists probably listening and watching right now, this panel, but it is the truth. We do go into a lot of times sacrificing our own family members in order to become that artist's either father, either therapist. Sometimes we become their booking agent, even though managers, in reality, we're not supposed to be doing booking and being their artist manager, because it is a conflict of interest and it is pretty much against the law here in the United States. But there is a gray line where an artist manager does do bookings in the sense where someone calls us, we can go ahead and take the booking and negotiate it and set the date. But we are not to solicit any dates. That is the job of a booking agent. Now, if you're going to also do that, you must have separately, and any of my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, you're supposed to have a separate company handling bookings. That's what they do. A manager's not technically supposed to be doing that, not supposed to solicit. In terms of the difference of the job of us being an artist manager and let's say someone who's a label manager or someone who's works at a publishing company, which I also have a publishing company. I have a joint venture with Peer Music, which I've had since 2012. So I also have a lot of songs that I've signed, and as well as songwriters. Those are more specific duties. Whereas as an artist manager, like I said, you go into the different areas, and everyone would agree, which we started talking at the beginning, way before we started the panel, that like you become the babysitter, you become the bodyguard, you even get involved in the music production, you get involved in even handling their bills, because a lot of artists don't know how to manage their money. A lot of artists make a lot of money and they spend it on ridiculous things, and they're broke. And it's not because they're not making money, it's just because they're buying the cars, the jewelry, and obviously all the relatives that they never know they had start showing up with phenomenal business ideas and phenomenal business opportunities. And I want to open up a barbershop, and I want to open up a cuchifrito over here in the Bronx that I've always dreamed of having, and making my own cakes. So we go into a lot of things, and I want to give the space to my other colleagues to get more into detail. I don't want to bombard everyone with everything that I want to talk about. So next.
So I'll go next. So, like, I think management, to Peter's point, there's a lot of misconception in the artist world about what a manager does and doesn't do. But I also think that something I always say is that there's a perfect manager for a perfect artist, right? I think I'm incredible at what I do, but I don't think I would be great with every single client. Because I have a very specific way of working, and I have to see the vision. I always say, if I don't see the first 3 steps on how to take that artist from point A to point B, I don't pick up the artist. And a lot of that is because of what Peter said as well, is that you become everything. You become the babysitter, you become the big brother, you become, their shoulder to cry on, you become the guy solving every problem. All of a sudden you're the plumber, you didn't know how to fix the toilet, now you're the guy fixing the toilet for the guy. But I think what does make it a great thing as a manager is that you have the ability to be the coach. You have the ability to build the team around you so that you can take your artist to where he needs to be. And whether that is bringing in a right agent or whether that is bringing in, the right publicist, for me, it's about being able to be the coach and help tell that story, very much like a director in a movie. I think you'll always have your script writer, you'll always have your actor, you'll always have, the makeup artist. But as a director, you get to see the vision way before everybody does, and you get to see the playing field. And to me, that's really interesting because as someone who loved architecture, I love the fact of being able to plan and seeing that come to pass. I always tell my clients, make a dream list, make a list, like a note on your phone of everything you want to accomplish. And so I am clear on what our goals are and what your dreams are, and I can create the perfect plan to get there. And again, that's very different than a publisher. As a publisher, I'm looking for a songwriter. I sign the writer. I'll look for a couple opportunities, but the biggest thing is I try to protect that writer and protect his rights and his splits. As a label, I'm looking to sign the artist, and I put a team behind it. I financially fund and kind of create a strategy based primarily on the music side. But I expect the manager to fill in the hole of creating the brand, the image, and give me an artist that can sell the music that we're giving him, and that I can ultimately put in a pedestal so that he can sell this music. So I think as a manager, you have the ability to kind of play every role and see what everybody does. But most importantly, I think a great manager is a great architect, is a great director, is the person that understands what the end goal is and how and what we need to do to get there. And so I think that part, it can be a pain. It can be a lot of stress, but it's very gratifying because, to be able to see your team and be able to make someone better, I think is great. And one of the things that I study a lot of coaches, and I study a lot of people a lot of great leaders. And one of the things that I always think that was great was that Bill Belichick, who, is the coach for the Patriots, always says that his goal is to always make the player so good that he'll ultimately want to leave because he'll get more money somewhere else. And at first I was like, what? That makes no sense. Like, if I'm a coach, I want to get the best player and keep him here. But I think you ultimately, as a manager, you hope that you have a long-term relationship with your client. But I think you've done a great job if when you see the end goal with your client, he's someone that is at a whole nother level than when you guys started, then you've accomplished your mission. And sometimes management is seasonal. Again, there's managers for everything. And I think there's great managers who are great at building legacy acts and are great at building acts that are already there. There's managers that are amazing of taking an artist 0 to 60. And then at 60, they need the help of somebody else because they just don't have the reach or the vision to take it there. So I approach management very much in that perspective of like, I understand where my goal is. I understand where I want to take them. And ultimately, I enjoy the process of building the building blocks and guiding the whole team to lead the artist to the end goal. And that's my spiel. Call me. No, just kidding.
Yeah, so on my end, I guess I would add, other than manager, you're the cook too. I love to cook, so anybody that's been to any of my camps have tried my cooking. But so also artist development. I feel like artist development is something that is heavily on the manager, and the team as well. But artist development, you don't see it as something that's the responsibility of a record label anymore. So I just feel like artists, the manager has to really, like Lex was saying, like you have to see that vision, and once you see that vision, like you're the one that's going to be like super like head on focus to make sure that you fulfill all of those goals that that both you and the artist want to get to. So artist development, what else? I mean, you are that counselor, like we were saying in the beginning. Mental health is really a topic that I'm really big on. Mental health is one of those things where, like, you see an artist going through their ups and downs in a career, like, seeing, wait a minute, what, I want to get to this, I want to get to that. And sometimes there's breakdowns, things don't happen as quick, as maybe an artist wants it to happen. But that's when that spiritual side gets to it as well, just really like making sure that the artist is with that faith, and making sure that they're focused on themselves, understanding that, yeah, this is your career, this is what you want to do. But before you put your all into your career, you need to make sure that you as a person are good and are set in order to like continue impacting the world at a global scale, like every artist wants to do.
Well, I think all of them have already said all the points, really. But I think for me at this point as well, outside of all that, currently my artists are really young. They're under 21. So I think one of the bigger things that I've tried to focus on as well is helping them understand all the different aspects of the business, because as young artists, they also are young entrepreneurs. So it's outside of the music, they're also working on different things outside of the music industry. And I think that's important too, because I wish somebody at 20 would have explained half the things that I know now, and it could have impacted my life so much different. So for me, that's been something that we focused on a lot currently, as well as obviously everyone sees what we post on Instagram or whatnot, and it all seems amazing, but there's so much work and struggle behind just getting to that one thing that we're posting about. So I think outside of us, the managers and the artists, it's a marriage, like Lex was saying, and everyone else, that the relationship has to really make sense, because you're literally giving your 110% to this person to try to make everything work out. And as managers, you're living off of a commission of what these artists bring in. So also, it's not like money is just falling from the sky. Like, we're all just trying to get these different opportunities that make sense for them, so that we can continue building their brand.
I guess I'll just say a couple points. I guess a lot of the points were kind of covered, I feel, but I feel like the last thing I would say is that you're really an advocate for the artist, especially when they're signed, because you're not just managing them, you're managing the teams that they're signed to, you're managing the A&R that they may have, you're managing their time schedule, you're managing tons of other people that are involved in the project. So I feel like you have to be a really strong leader. I've kind of gone through a lot of different circumstances being a lot younger than my artists. So trying to be an advocate for them and making sure that people are listening to me and respecting my opinions and my ideas. But a lot of the time you have to make sure that your artists, this is a team, so you have to make sure that the artists are just as much advocating for you as you are them. Because a lot of times you walk into situations, if you guys are not a cohesive unit, it doesn't really make sense for what you're pitching and things like that. But aside from that, you're definitely the mother sometimes, you're the auntie, you're the therapist, you're everything. So you have to be ready to commit that time. So if you're not ready for something like that, you should probably think of some of the other careers that are in the music industry.
Thank you, everyone, for them gems. You got this chat popping. So as a writer, I always think about how I can insert the woman experience or the perspective, specifically in spaces like hip hop, like reggaeton, right? And an experience I had that I never forgot was a conversation I had was with reggaetonera Ivy Queen, where we spoke about woman representation, right? And she emphasized on the fact that yes, we may have more, women in music, but are they actually making the decisions, right? And I'm curious to know, and this question is more for the women in the panel, what has been your experience like in the industry, and what advice can you give to women who are pursuing a position as an artist manager or in the music space in general, as we're still fighting for representation and equality?
Well, I think on my end, I've always had great champions of, that I worked with that always gave me those opportunities. They weren't women, and you're right, there wasn't a lot of women as I was starting off in the music industry, but from the beginning, I was lucky enough, like I said, to work with Daryl, who now he's like the co-head of music for CAA, and I still have a great relationship with him. And he impacted my life and gave me those different opportunities where, maybe somebody else wouldn't have given that to me. And not only from him, but even, from when I was at Sony, and I had the more developing artists, which I love, and Ricky Martin. And I met Pip on a panel that he was on. They just sent me just to, if he needed something, just be there. He wasn't, like I said, he wasn't signed to Sony as a direct signed artist. So I went and we just hit it off. And he's the one that really, I feel, changed my life completely, because I went from being that label manager that really was just brand new to the scene, to him coming in and telling the president of Sony, like, I want her to work my project. And this is Pitbull about to, come out with Planet Pit, which is the album that took him to that next level. And here I am now being the label manager for this guy, And after that, he was the one that also was very much like, what do you want to do and how can I help you? And he was the one that also was the one that, pushed me to want to pursue my own company and do my own thing. And he gave me the opportunity to come on board and be his head of marketing, run the label part of it. And for me, that was all super new. I think for me at that moment, he was the person that when I didn't believe in myself, he believed in me. And so from that point on, I always felt like, man, if I have the opportunity, I want to give that same opportunity to other women. And I've always been inclined to give internship opportunities or other, whether it be job opportunities to women or minorities, because those were something that, I lucked out in having those key people in my life. So I hope that, I can continue doing that. And even though there's not that many female managers out there, I think now social media allows you to find them a lot easier, where before you didn't know who was really out there and you couldn't really look for them to try to guide you, So I've learned that also, it's a tough position being a manager, no matter what, if you're a male or female, but keeping those contacts that you have, there's key people that, come into your life and just impact your life completely. And there's people that come into your life because you have a dope artist and they're trying to be there for whatever reason. But those key people that have helped you, they're always going to be there to support you because they just believe in you, not the artist that you have, not what company you're working. And relationships is everything. I think your reputation is everything in this business, because everybody here on this panel, I'm sure people say this or that, but you continuously have work, and because you have a good reputation. And I think that's important.
I guess I'll go next. I definitely would say, so recently I started the hashtag Get a Female Manager, because I felt like it was so important that a lot of artists understand the level of just technique we kind of have, just being women, and how we move around in certain spaces and things like that, and the type of attentions, detail we kind of put to certain things. So that hashtag has been doing really well, and a lot of people have been kind of talking about it, because it's just a topic that I feel like people don't really discuss. We don't really talk about the different stance and the level and things of that nature. But What I think is mentorship is key. I was actually able to be mentored by a lot of great women in the music industry. Lon Ray, she's the head of A&R at Atlantic Records, and Therese, she's the head of A&R at Def Jam. They both took out the time to just teach me, to just walk me through any kind of issues that I have. And I always hear a lot of times other women kind of say, you know, oh, things are catty. A lot of women aren't there for you, but there are a lot of women that really do want to help. You just kind of have to find them, and you have to be ready to help as well. I offer myself openly to them for anything they kind of need, like even if it was just looking for beats, or they send me on like crazy missions to like find beats for like huge artists, and I'm just like nervous, but they believed in me and they put these tasks in my hand, and you know, they were able to shine a light on me based on like tons of their experiences and things like that. So I would definitely say find a mentor. There's always a lot of men in the industry too that are able to help you too as well, because they kind of look at you like, they look at women like, oh, we gotta help them and things like that. So there are a lot of men that do champion for you as well. So, you know, finding those areas too are also very helpful. But mentorship, I would leave it at that. Find somebody that's just gonna walk you through and hold your hand through this, because it's difficult.
So for me, you know, early on in my career, I was given you know, the hand by a couple people, males, you know, and obviously, you know, uno aprecia eso, you know, you appreciate, you know, that a male can see you for your work and what you do, and also the passion that you have. I feel like that's really major for a manager to have a lot of passion. And on the topic of mentorship, you know, I was literally talking about this last week, and I was telling both of the people, and when I saw I was on this panel, I was really excited because I was actually on the same panel with Lex, and Lex is someone who I consider a friend and a mentor as well for me. And, you know, he opened the door for me, you know, in a different type of way last year, I would definitely say. You know, being able to meet somebody as well, within the industry that believes in your vision, and that sees, like, you know, Stephanie, like I see what you can be, and I really appreciate that from him. And it's like, okay, that's not dead, you know, like, yeah, there are, you know, there are those moments when you're like, wait a minute, like, you know, I need to get my stance up here, and like, I'm a female in the industry, like, you know, tengo que valerme por mí misma y todo eso, you know. But the reality is that there are those people that are going to give you those opportunities, and that are going to, you know, allow you to be, you know, to be speaking your story, and allow yourself to like really see yourself like in another light within. Females in the industry, not just managers. I mean, managers, you know, no somos muchas. I'm really excited to, you know, to meet both of you guys tonight, because we got to stick together. You know, I feel like it's really important to actually, you know, be mentored by each other as well, and learn from different experiences. I'm sure I can learn from both of you guys' experiences as well. But I think it's just really important, you know, to really stick together. You know, my TCC Latin team, like, we're all female, you know, like, the co-founders for Conciencia Collective were female, you know, like, I have a female artist, like, and I'm sure Yvette knows, like, it's a different type of connection when you actually, like, when you have a female artist, you know. I'm excited to see where we are going, because we can't forget about, you know, the publicists, you know, we can't forget about the project managers, we can't forget about those people within the industry who are female, who are making this run. Like, we have some crazy fire publicists in the game, you know, that are really killing it, that have been, you know, merging cultures together, you know, before, you know, certain eyes are even, you know, on it. Like, the publicists are seeing the vision before, so we need to, like, also give that, you know, give that props to them. And on the publicist page, like, you know, I would say, Chris Cobo for me is somebody who I definitely look up to, and is another mentor for me. Somebody who I've learned a lot from, who, you know, you see, you know, the story, and it's like, yo, you've done so many things as a female in the industry. Like, people need to really see where it is that our vision is, and we're making moves. Like, all the females in this industry are definitely making moves, and I'm really excited to be part of a chapter, you know?
Well, one thing I want to say, although I'm not a woman.
Peter! This ain't about you. It's like, not playing.
Hold up. I just want to add that I'm extremely excited that more women are coming into the forefront of the industry, because, I mean, I've been in this industry for a long time, and believe it or not, what has happened is that there have been a lot of women in the industry that have been giving an input, that have been putting their 2 cents to say. But unfortunately, they haven't been in those positions to make decisions and sign and say, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. They've always been, unfortunately, in the years past, either the assistant, the executive assistant, or the secretary, or the personal assistant to the manager. But believe it or not, I've been given a lot of opportunities throughout the years, have been given to me by women in key positions. And I'll give you an example. Even when you want to speak to, at least what's happened to me in the past, when you wanted to speak to the president of a particular label, guess who's answering the phone? It's that woman. And if you're not nicer and you don't have a good rapport, she's not gonna pass the call to the president of the label. If she thinks you're an asswipe or a dick, you're not getting through. Okay? And at other times is that even in a production sense or in videos, women have given their ideas, but they have not been given the credit. And that wasn't cool. Now, women are taking charge. I'm a member of Women in Music. I'm a proud member, even though I'm not a female. And I'm glad to see that now women are in a position of power, and now they're being seen and given the credit for what they've done throughout all these years. So bring it on. And I've mentored a lot of females that have come to me that have started out with, you know, they're independent artists. So I'm happy to embrace. I've been, my whole career, my personal life, when it comes to my wife, my sisters, my aunts, my cousins, they've all had an influence in me. So girls, come on in, take over, because at the end of the day, ustedes las mujeres son más astutas que nosotros los hombres.
Energy. Lex, I see you bopping your head. Do you want to add anything?
I mean, you know, I back exactly what he said. I think both Stephanie and Yvette, who have had an opportunity to work closely with or talk about this subject in particular with, I'm a huge supporter of women. I love the fact, and it's not, I just love the fact that the industry is opening up. I mean, I think for me, we need it, because I always feel like there's a certain touch that women have in everything. Honestly, my whole life, I grew up with my mom and my sister. I didn't grow up with my father, and I see my mother, who was, you know, a hard worker but successful in what she did, and just the knack and the understanding of seeing the bigger picture, and the understanding of also the emotion of people. People forget that we are in a people business, and understanding how other people feel is such an important like asset to building a career. And so for me, it's like, honestly, I love what's going on, and I hope it continues. And I've been blessed enough to mentor women like, you know, Ashley Calhoun, who went on to be the head of Pulse Music, and you know, Stephanie, who we talked about this all the time. Like, just anything that I think can bring to the forefront the fact that it doesn't matter what the industry tells you. I mean, I think you guys are exceptional at what you do, and deserve everything that's happening in success, and everything that's going to happen as we continue to open up, especially in the Latin business, where I feel like some walls need to be kicked down, and I'll be right there kicking them down with you. So just let me know.
Amazing. I'm really loving this energy right now. And I think two of the biggest takeaways is the importance of allyship, but then also creating a space. For example, Stephanie, and explaining how Lex mentored her, and also how Peter spoke about just his experience and being in, you know, women in music. And I think that this is something that we should all think about in walking out of this Zoom call, right? Moving forward, I want to specifically ask Jocelyn about your experience in hip hop. You're more like on the US side, and a lot of people I normally speak to in terms of the music industry in the US, they often speak about sometimes navigating that music space, right? Sometimes the people on the top or people making decisions are non-Black, and there is a certain way you have to navigate certain conversations or being at a certain table. And I want to know if there's anything you can share from your experience and any advice that you can give to people who are walking into those spaces.
Just don't be afraid to share your opinion, because a lot of the time, especially in hip hop, the culture, it starts with us anyway. It starts in the streets. It starts where you're from anyway. So the opinions that they want are from you anyway. So don't be afraid to just say what you feel, to correct people when they're saying something that it just doesn't make any sense. That's not true to the real experience that's going on. So starting there, don't be afraid. Other than that, I would say advocate for your artists in all ways that you can, because a lot of the time they'll get walked over, because a lot of these artists are coming from situations where they may not have gotten the best education, or they may not have had the best upbringing, but the music that they're making is selling. So they may be in situations where they're not getting the best help, or they're not getting the best respect, or they're not getting the best marketing teams, or whatever the case may be. So don't be afraid to advocate for your artists. Don't be afraid to step in if you have to, and if you have to make other plans and things like that for them. Definitely that. I would definitely say mental health is a big issue, especially in the hip hop community, because a lot of people that are, going through situations, and they may be taking drugs, or they may be doing certain things just because they just don't know how to express themselves. And that goes back to the original point of like not having the best education or the best upbringing. So being able to have those open conversations is really important. So being able to talk to them and figure out what's going on, if there's something that they may be not able to express, because sometimes I've noticed, like especially with artists in the hip hop scene, is that they may not know how to openly express themselves in a way to kind of really get the help that they need. So sometimes you have to be the interpreter, and you have to learn how to have those hard conversations for them. So definitely those kind of conversations are big. But just making sure that everything that's being said is true to the experience, because things get really warped easily in the music industry and entertainment industry, just because it's just easy. If no one's saying anything, it's easy to have things get walked over, or like, the verbiage being like incorrect, and things aren't, because sometimes I get a lot of situations where I'm reading something and I'm like, how would somebody feel? Like, how would my mom feel about how that's written? Or how would the old woman down the block feel about how that's written? Like, you have to really think about, you can't get too lost in the situation. You have to really think about the fact that this is being either projected to people in these like low income communities, and this is being projected to these young kids in school, and you have to make sure that things are said properly. So yeah, without going too off, but just make sure that you're standing up for the community and the culture, for real.
Thank you, Jocelyn. So Peter, now with your experience, and you spoke about your 20 plus years in the industry, right? We're curious to know about you starting your company, but also experiencing the different faces in Latin music and the certain genres that were popularized, and then the transitions. So we want to know a little bit more about what your experience has been in witnessing the evolution in terms of our music being in the mainstream.
Okay. I mean, everyone on this panel, and everyone who's probably watching, who's in the industry, knows that the entertainment business or the music industry is a roller coaster ride. You're gonna have your lows, you're gonna have your highs, you're gonna have your mediums, you're gonna have moments where you thought you found the it artist, and you do everything within your powers, and you put them in front of the people that you're supposed to, and nothing happens. And you're like, what the fuck? But you did everything. And then the artist is looking at you like, man, you didn't do anything for me. No. It's not. We did everything. We thought we had the music right. We thought we had the marketing right. The money was invested. It's just that at the end of the day, the public, the consumer, is the one who decides. And if for whatever reason they just don't connect and the vibe is not there, that artist is not going to pop off. You can have an artist that might sound great in the studio, but yet when they go to perform, it's a total fuck up. And excuse my French, but I'm from New York, so I'm gonna keep it real. I've had artists where, and I'm not gonna mention who because they were signed to a major label, where a president of a particular label called me and say, hey, Peter, I want you to take over this group. I don't know what to do with them. They're fantastic. And you've had the experience to do this and do that. Great. I take the artist, they give me the budget. I go in the first day of session. I go in there. First of all, the artist is not prepared. You hear the guy singing, and he's going off key and pitchy. The engineer's giving you a look like, what the fuck? And you gave them the tracks weeks ago. So they should have come prepared. So that happens. The other thing, and I mentioned that because those are the up and the highs and the lows. And also even financially, you have highs and lows in the industry. So now going into the different genres of music and the evolution of the music industry, where we've gone from, well, I've only gone from CDs to digital. maybe there was a little vinyl when I was involved, but it was mostly CDs and then digital. As a manager, if you don't study and you don't get into the craft of what's going on with the different genres of music, I've been lucky enough and blessed enough where I've been able to be in merengue, I've been able to do merengue house, hip hop, reggae, reggaeton, trap, house music, I think I mentioned already. And now, a couple of years back, I started getting into regional Mexican. Now, people were looking at me like, what the fuck do you know? You're Dominican. You're from New York. What the fuck do you know about regional Mexican? But you know what it is? I personally like regional Mexican music. I love banda music. And what I did was I started preparing my ears for it because I knew that I wanted to get into that market and I wanted to manage an artist in that market. And I started I would say I started like helping out certain regional artists until then I felt prepared enough where I said, you know what? Now I can go into it and fuck how they're gonna look at me. And that's when I signed Rogelio Martinez, who's had a great career in the regional Mexican world. And now we've done a partnership where not only am I his artist manager, but I'm also his partner. So we own the masters together. I'm involved in the writing. I'm also involved in the music production of it. Not necessarily producing the music, but I'm telling the producer and the arranger, hey, I think you should do this and do that. And sometimes I get these looks like, what the fuck do you know? You're Dominican. But then I tell them, I know this, I know that, you could do this, you could change that. But to summarize it up, you have to go with the times and you have to put in the time to study, to read, to prepare yourself. If you're gonna get into reggaeton, study the music of reggaeton. Study trap, study hip hop. So you know what the fuck you're talking about and you know what you're doing when you are in the studio with your artist. If you're gonna get into contract negotiations, there are books that you can read to do contract negotiations when it comes to publishing contracts, when it comes to recording contracts, when it comes to publishing contracts, TV contracts. Now that I'm managing, I've been managing TV talent for a number of years. And if it wasn't for the school that I went to, because I call it my school, and I went to work for Univision, which I started first. I knew nothing about TV production, and I started as a TV producer, not knowing shit, but I was open-minded, and I said, I'm gonna learn this shit. And literally, not even, I would say 4 months into the job, I knew that I wanted to go into the talent department because that was my forte. But those four to 6 months that I spent in production, I learned about editing. I learned about the different colors of clothing that you should use against a particular backdrop inside the TV studio. I learned about makeup. I learned about hair. I learned about styling. I learned about what colors you should wear depending the color of the skin of the artist, of the talent. So you have to go into these different areas so you can provide that as an artist manager to the artists that you're going to manage and represent. Because as we've all continue to repeat, not only are we counselors and therapists, but we do become stylists. We become hairdressers. You know, we tell the hairstylist, can you fix this? Or we tell, oh, can you give it a little bit more contour right here and fix the nose? Because you already know the angles of your artist. I even tell the director sometimes, yo, don't have your camera guy go into her face, come in from the side, because if you go into her face, she's gonna look flat. Protect her angles. Because if you don't study these things and you don't evolve with time, you're gonna become where everyone knows this in the industry. You will become a dinosaur. You don't want to become a dinosaur. When people start calling you a dinosaur, you better fucking retire. And I love what I do. So I don't plan to become a dinosaur. I plan to continue evolving, continue learning. Maybe at some point I'm going to slow down a bit because there are other things that I want to do. There are charities and foundations that I want to create. I want to get involved in helping, which I've done since I was a little kid, helping kids. You know, I want to feed children. I want to build schools. I want to build, homes, etc. I want to leave a legacy once I die. So the music industry or the entertainment industry is a platform for me to go into that next stage of my life of what I want to give back to my community, to my people, and to those who are in need. But what I emphasize is you've got to study every fucking day. You got to learn your craft, or else you will become a dinosaur.
Amazing, Peter. I ain't going extinct.
Fuck that.
I ain't becoming no dinosaur.
Nah.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Lex, you've been quite a busy person, and we want to know about your experience in closing deals like the Neon 16 Interscope partnership, executive producing soundtracks like SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, launching a charity initiative like Human X, and signing artists like Dylan Fuentes. Like, you've been pretty busy, and we want to know more about how you are achieving these things, and how you're educating maybe non-Latinos about the culture while you're doing this.
Look, I think in business and in life overall, right, you have to have a vision of where you want to go, which is what I was mentioning earlier. I think, to me, that's what leads you to the opportunities, or at least you to understand when the opportunity is in front of you that you should take it. I was telling my artist the other day that, life doesn't know when you tell it that you want to be famous. You can be famous 20 million ways. Like, you could be famous by falling and slipping and somebody happened to film you and then your video goes viral and then you're the kid who fell and slipped and everybody laughed. Like, you have to be descriptive to life and let life know, like, I want to be famous as an artist, like this. And the more that you know, the more that you understand where you're going, the easier it is for you to understand how to get there. And so for me with Neon, it was a very clear idea from the get-go on what I wanted to build and how we wanted to build it. And I noticed that there was a huge gap in the Latin music business of a brand that actually meant culture, represented what it meant across all platforms. And I also understand early on that there was huge parts of the business that nobody was paying attention to because, fortunately and unfortunately, there's a lot of money going on in Latin that is done through just doing shows. So most artists, most entrepreneurs, most managers are caught up in, hey, if I can get my artist touring and I can make my $10, $15 million, I don't focus on anything else. which is fine. I mean, it's a business and it works. And at the end of the day, the bottom line matters. But for us, it wasn't about necessarily just the financial part. I think we were blessed enough to be in a situation we were all very stable financially. And we said, okay, how do we want to approach creating something that mattered and is significant to culture? And so with Neon, the first part wasn't even Interscope. The first part was really the fact that when I started building Tiny, I was like, how am I going to present him in a light that is not the same as any other Latin producer? And so when we came up with I Can't Get Enough, and I knew that we wanted to have Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco on it, and understanding my relationship with Interscope, I said, you know, it'd be great to have a partnership inside a label where there was no Latin culture yet, right? This was way before they even opened the Latin division to it. And part of that notion was Interscope was a label based on building producers into superstars. That was the way that Jimmy built the company to begin with. So right off the bat, again, I knew where I wanted to take my business, and I knew that I needed to align with someone whose vision and whose DNA as a label was the same as mine. And so that made the negotiation very easy, because I also knew what I wanted and what I didn't want, and the freedoms that I wanted us to have as a label, and what we were looking for as far as an experience with a label. And that kind of transcends across every deal that we've done. Our deal with NFL came from that same experience as well, which was, you know, we have Adicto, and I wanted to do something no other Latino had done in a way that nobody else had done it. And so being able to go through Genesis, the car company, and right away get Tiny to be the face of the car company, shoot a commercial, and then knowing that Genesis' relationship with the NFL was that they host the Monday Night Football. So that allowed me to put Tiny and Anuel singing a full Spanish song, Adicto, on Monday Night Football with 30 million viewers. And then that kind of led the same thing with SpongeBob. You know, the SpongeBob situation came when they reached out to us about wanting us to just remix the SpongeBob record. And so automatically I asked, you know, what's going on with the movie? We would love to see it. And when I sat and actually saw the movie and understood that there was, unlike just the show, who has the cultural moment because everybody loves SpongeBob, the movie, you know, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but it brings a lot of what's going on in culture. And for the first time, I think it pushed the limits of where SpongeBob was at. And I felt like that's exactly what I wanted to do. I'm like, with such a big brand, if we can get a Latin record to be the end title of this movie, but plus on top of that, add colors to the soundtrack, I think it'd be great. So I approached him. I said, look, the only way we would do this is if we can do a whole soundtrack, because I think you guys are missing the bigger picture. And thankfully, you know, the staff at Paramount and the executives and Areli, who we worked really closely on the music, was in love with the idea. And then we went on to execute it. And it was kind of the same thing when I was talking to Balvin about it and how we wanted to approach it, and all the rest of the songs that are coming out, which have been great, that are not all Latin. You know, our next single, Crabby Step, is with Tyga, Sway Lee, and Little Mosey. And it was same thing. What else can we add culturally that could create that impact? And then with Human X, very similar as well. You know, during the whole Black Lives Movement and everything that was happening with COVID and everybody that was being affected, all my clients started hitting me and afraid of like, well, where do we donate? What can we actually post? Because, you know, when you're dealing with such, you know, matters that are very important and that could be taken the wrong way, the biggest thing that you try to do is protect your client, because sometimes you could donate and then it's not enough, and then people find out and then it's like, oh, you didn't donate enough and you don't believe in the cause. So I found that a lot of the clients that I was dealing with and a lot of my friends in the business had that fear of donating or helping, but they wanted to. And so Human X grew from that, where it was like, what if we use our talent and our voices to create content that can ultimately donate and be a voice for the organizations that we want to sponsor, but it gives you an opportunity to use your talent, your time, your effort, without it necessarily being critiqued because you didn't do enough or you didn't put enough money, or you know, in the case of an artist, you know, like sometimes putting yourself at risk in these situations. And so Human X grew from that, and you know, we thought that humanity was going through a very heavy struggle with not only COVID, but with everything that was happening in the world, across the world. And so, we were blessed enough to have David Guetta and Talia and all the great artists who participated in the first song, La Cultura, and our next singles going on. And the ultimate goal with that is to create a foundation that, becomes what Global Citizen has become on the Anglo side. And not only that, but we can build schools off that and really utilize music and multimedia to drive the initiatives. And so anytime that I look at again, any new deal across all platforms, even what we're doing in TV and film now with our development deal and helping launch Range, and where we have the blessing of managing Johnny Depp and Bradley Cooper and Emily Clark and so many others, it's really, what's the vision? How do we want to impact culture? And in seeing that, and it makes negotiating a lot easier because I know what I'm going for. I'm not just looking for a handout. I'm not necessarily taking a deal because it showed up, which happens a lot. I know exactly what I'm aiming for and what I'm not. And so when I'm negotiating, I know right away if I'm feeling the person, if it's the right match for what our end goal is, if the terms meet what we are ultimately trying to do with the company. And so that's why I think we've been able to accomplish the level of success that we have in, pretty much a year and 4 or 5 months that we've been in business as Neon, because of the fact that we've been really clear with our vision. And I think if there's any advice I can give to anybody watching this is the clearer that you have your dreams, the clearer that you understand your vision and where you want to go, the faster you can get there. Because a lot of times we pass on opportunities, or we negotiate the wrong deal, or we get into the wrong business just because it comes as an opportunity, but you're not clear of where you want to go. So you take it, and then it continues to delay your process to getting to where you want. And so for me and for my clients, I do it with literally all my clients, Tiny included, having that dream list, attracting and understanding what is it that you want makes negotiating, makes building a business, makes managing, makes, creating music a lot easier, because you're not guessing. So I hope that answers kind of, what you were asking. But to me, that's the key to the success of Neon and the success that we're having as a business.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lex. And I'm aware that you have to leave us a little bit earlier. I wanted to thank you for being part of the panel, for sharing your experience and knowledge with our attendees, and for what you're doing and contributing for the culture.
Well, thank you guys for having, and to the rest of the panelists who I've been blessed to know some of you, and the ones that I don't know, looking forward to building with everyone. And thank you guys. I think any time that we can use our voices and I guess our talent to inspire and get other people involved and growing, I'm all for it. So thanks again for having me. I'm really sorry I have to go.
You got it, man.
Thank you.
Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and give me a call.
I got you. Bye.
Love it. Now, Yvette, you've transitioned from working at a major label to working at your own company. Can you tell us about this moment in your life, and what are some of the biggest differences in working in the US side of the industry versus the Latin space, at least from your point of view and perspective?
Yeah, so I think, back in the days, everything was so separate. And luckily, I had the opportunity to be able to work artists that were kind of, going back and forth, like Pitt. And to kind of just start off with the first question, when I did decide to leave Sony, it was to go work for him. But in the same realm, it was having to open my own company, do everything like if you were going to just start again, to have your own business, because that's how he said we were going to do it, start your own company. And I would come on board and do everything. And for me, I think for anybody starting a company or any kind of business, it's scary. You're just like, I'm going to go from working at a corporate job where I get paid, my salary. And now it's like going into a totally different type of thing and trying to find different avenues for revenue. So that was scary in itself. And then especially once you start doing it and you're used to having a team to kind of say like, hey, you're going to call this person, you're going to call this person. And it's kind of like, no, you're the person, you're going to call these people and you're going to build the team. So it was really nerve-wracking, but also having him and his current team supporting me along the way, I think helped, and it wasn't as scary. So I think having that support helped me at that moment. And then eventually, well, now obviously I'm doing it without any kind of support in the sense of having that, you know, big client. But I think the scary part was already kind of gone because I had been much longer in the business, and I felt really confident in the relationships that I had and the experience that I had. And I think the artist and I that we decided to work together, I believe in them and they really truly believed in me. So I think that fear, it was like, we're doing this together. So I definitely, it's a different place now. And I think too, in general, from coming from starting in general market and then going into Latin, now it's so different. Like Latin is not so segregated from, you know, general market or whatnot. Latin is general market, you know, it's so different. So I don't think, now I don't see that much of a difference. Whereas before, you know, Pitt was a Latin artist in general market, and it was very different, and we did separate things. We had an English album, we had a Spanish album. All the things were just very segregated. The teams were different, and now we're able to build teams that know how to work both markets. We're able to integrate different opportunities. Brands are looking for just songs or artists that are just global stars, not just specific genres or ethnicities or things like that. So I think the business has grown so much over the years, and now it's an amazing time because now you get to hear so many different artists playing on, you know, general market radio or whatnot. And it's just a great time to be able to be in music and keep growing it and expanding. I think everyone here has so many different, different hands and different things that only allows that culture to keep growing and bringing Latin to a much bigger platform globally.
Thank you, Yvette. Stephanie, I'm a huge fan, first of all, of TCC Latin because I feel so strongly about producers understanding split sheets. And also understanding our creative and our intellectual property, right, as creatives. And I think what you're doing is so amazing with that platform. So I would really love for you to elaborate on what was the motivation behind creating TCC Latin and what it is and what's the importance of the platform.
Awesome. Yeah, so thank you so much. I appreciate it. So TCC Latin, you know, it was something that, like Yvette was actually saying about, you know, wanting to become an entertainment lawyer. Like that's what I wanted to do. Like I did everything in life to go to law school, like everything. And you know, when I was at Univision, my last project with Univision was the Trayvon Martin case. And I was like, okay, criminal is dope, but I would love to go ahead and put together like my passion for music, you know, my passion for entertainment. Like I want to all put it together, you know, into one. So entertainment law is going to be cool, right? So yeah. At the firm where I was at, the lawyer that was there, she was, you know, she was telling me like, Stephanie, like, you know, I did O-Town and it was cool, you know, but you know, you're literally stuck with all this paperwork and it's not as glamorous as it seems, right? I was also the chair for Phi Alpha Delta at UCF, and I had to talk to lawyers every time, and ask them like, okay, I'm gonna ask you this one question and it's, would you do this again, you know? And they would all kind of like say the same thing, like, I don't really know. So that passion for law and like understanding like, okay, these people need to learn like what it is and what's going on. I understood like my path, and what I needed to do, right? But I was a creative. So in 2016, I started with Google as one of the cohort members for a next gen tech policy leader. And so understanding tech policy and like, you know, what IP law was, I'm like, wait a minute, this is exactly what I like and what I like to do. So how can we merge it together? This year, you know, the idea like really started blossoming. Y gracias a Dios, we've been able to have, you know, producers such as Misael de la Cruz, M de la Cruz, that, you know, that works with as well. And just like him explaining his time, right, as a producer, him wanting to make sure that, you know, that people are understanding, like, hey, like, you know, we're not going to get taken advantage of, like, you know, we're producers ready to, like, get what's ours. You know, a lot of these producers, you know, don't know the language, and it's like that legal language that sometimes it isn't sexy, you know, but we need to know it in order to, you know, get these contracts through, because everything within music, everything in business in general, it goes through with a contract. So como es que nosotros entendemos eso, right? So a lot of these things weren't in our language, you know, when we really think about it. And I was like, we got to do something, right? I met Kim Tignor. She's actually the head for the English branch of Take Creative Control. And I was, wow, for like about like a year and a half, like telling her, like, we need to do this in Orlando. Like, just trust me. Like, we have to do this in Spanish. Like, it's gonna be amazing. Like, you know, I'm gonna tell everybody that, like, Google's in Orlando. Like, everybody's gonna be like, wait a minute, we're gonna come, we're gonna learn, like, YouTube University, like, let's go. But live, like, and then understanding how to protect our work, like, this is gonna be amazing. And in Spanish. So, you know, we were able to go ahead, do the event in Orlando. It was an amazing success. And it just confirmed to me, like, okay, hay que hacer esto en español. Like, we just have to do it. You know, there's people, you know, that don't understand the, you know, the ins and outs of what is in a contract. You know, you have these 16, 26-page contracts for, you know, for a producer, for, you know, for an artist, like at a label. And it's like, do they even understand what it is that they're, you know, that they're seeing, like, on that paper? Like, or did they just go down to the bottom, put their initials, and that's it? Like, so TCC Latin, you know, what we do is we give a lot of information, live chats with, you know, with different entertainment lawyers, IP lawyers, and, you know, with COVID and all the impact that it had, obviously we haven't been able to do, you know, a live event, but hopefully soon we're going to be able to do a live event. And we're also doing some pro bono work with different lawyers, you know, giving 15-minute consultations for artists, for, you know, if you have a business, this isn't just for, you know, music. It's for people who have a small business. You're a minority, you know, you have a small business, you want to learn what's going on, how you're able to protect your work, artists, managers, you know, we need to know how to protect our work. So, you know, got to make sure you have some legal representation for, you know, for that. So, you know, I'm excited with what TCC has grown to become. And like I said, you know, it's that information in our native language that's so important for, you know, for everybody to understand a little bit better.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Stephanie. So, you know, we normally give space for people to submit questions, and because of the time, I have only been able to choose one. And the question is, how do you balance between creative freedom for the artist and making a difficult decision for them? And this is from Victoria Abella, who's an attendee. Yeah, whoever wants to answer first can go.
All right, I guess I'll jump in first. You've got to allow the artist to be free. You cannot control creativity. You can't. You just got to let it flow. You can kind of like guide the artist, assist the artist. You know, like Lex said earlier. You know, you're like a coach. You know, you're the coach of the team. That's a great analogy to use. One thing that I do is that I never, ever, ever stop someone's creativity, because when you start doing that, believe it or not, it's almost like you're starting to kill that that desire that artist has, and the ability to come up with a melody with a song, or you've got to treat it in a way where even I'm also like, I'm very careful with how I approach, especially my female artists that I represent, because they'll come to me and say, "Hey, Peter, so how does it look? Like the outfit?" And I'm going in my head, I'm like, "Oh shit, okay." And I tell her, "Listen, why don't let's go check out the rest of the clothes you got. Let me see." And I look in the closet or in the rack that they have, and I say, "Let's try this one." And she'll go try it on, change, and I'm like, "Girl, that is the shit. You're out of here." Now remember, I never told her that she looked like shit on the other outfit. I completely dismissed it. I got into, and then I get some other people, and I uplift her. It's not about knocking her down. It's not about telling her you look like shit in that outfit or that color doesn't look good on you. No, 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 no. Kind of like push it to the side, get her into the right look, or even I'll tell you the experience that I had with and obviously I'm going away from the creative. I'm going more into the image here. I had an incident with a male artist of mine where they have a particular hairstyle that they've been wearing all this time, and all of a sudden they show up in my office with a different hairstyle. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? And I said, and I tell the artist, are we going for a new look now? Oh, it's that my girlfriend told me that this looks good on me. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to this style, because we got to go to do an interview. But going back to the creative, because I think I kind of like veered off it more into the image. Going back to the creative is you gotta let the flow go. You gotta let them be creative. You can't stop that. And then kind of just give in your 2 cents. But before you give your 2 cents, you gotta know what the heck you're talking about. Because if you don't know about production, you don't know about songwriting, you don't know about anything that goes into putting a song together or putting a video together, you might as well just keep your mouth shut and get someone who knows to help your artist out. That's my 2 cents on that.
For me, I also let my artists, I think creativity is key, and for them to express themselves however they choose. But I also think it's important to tell as a team for everybody to say their opinion or whatnot, and also be able to manage expectations, because no one's saying, oh yeah, I don't think there's an artist that does a song and is like, yeah, this is shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's not either. So not saying that that's what they're doing, but at the end of the day, it's like, great, we're going to put this out, and these are the realistic expectations of what we can do with the song, because that's the part that somebody else takes over, is the actual work to get that hit song to the next level. So I'm always really honest with my artists, and I think and the team that each one of them has, it's just being realistic. So yeah, we can do whatever you want to do, and as a team, please, you chime in and say what you feel, whatever if you're the publicist, if you're the label, everyone chime in and say what they feel can be done, so that everyone's on the same page. But yeah, I don't think anybody should ever stop the artist from their creative expression. It's just knowing how to manage that. This is also a business, so how are we going to take that creativity and be able to market it, manage it? So that's important.
I think I would say definitely like something that Lex was mentioning earlier when it comes to the ability that women have is allowing people to see the bigger picture. So for me, I like to make sure that my artists kind of understand the purpose, the goal, what we're here to do. So reminding them, of their goals, because, going into it, we have to remember that we have to ask the artist, what are your goals? What do you want to see happen? What are you looking to accomplish in the next 3 to 6 months? So if they're kind of veering off and things are kind of changing, you have to remind them of what they're setting their intentions to do. And once you remind them of their goals, you're kind of able to help them pull them out of weird situations or things that they're kind of doing that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So I definitely do a lot of that. But you have to be confident in what you're telling the artist. You have to have a good rapport with them, a good understanding with them, so that they can trust you when you're, telling them things that they may not believe at the moment. And you have to be, you know, really intentional with what you're trying to tell them and confident in your words and your word choice, you know, much like what you mentioned before. But know what you want to tell the artist, know how you want to present it to them, know who you're talking to, because this is a human business. We have to know that this artist doesn't like to be talked to this way, or they may not respond well if I tell them that's ugly. You have to tell them, you know, you have to know how to speak to your artist. No, this is your partner. You have to know how to speak to them. So yeah, just be confident, be honest, and make sure that you're staying on task with their goals.
Thank you. Steph had a bit of a tech issue, but she's logging back in now. Before we end, I wanted to make some space for our social media strategists and content creators, Caitlin and Gabi. If you guys can just show yourselves, present yourselves. Hi, Gabi. So I just wanted to make space and just thank Caitlin and Gabriela for all of the work.
Hi, I'm here. Hi, thank you all for coming. This panel was amazing.
Yes, very inspiring, very insightful too.
So I wanted to make space for Caitlin and Gabriela, and I wanted to present them to our attendees and our panelists, because sometimes we see the work on social media and we don't see the face. And we are extremely happy with all of the work that they are doing with social media. And yeah, we just wanted to make sure that everyone knew who Caitlin and Gabi were, and the work that they're putting behind, you know, the copy and posting these amazing flyers and graphics. So thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you all.
I also want to add that we will be giving a surprise giveaway, industry and Spanglish mask, to one of our attendees. So just look out for your email. It's going to be an email. It's going to pop up. And also our sponsor, all attending will have $5 off using the code Spanglish for Red Rose Vodka. It's Black owned, so support it, y'all. I'm extremely happy that they were able to support us. And yeah, everyone gets $5 off. I'm gonna let Vanessa and Angel, the two other co-founders, take the mic as well. I wanted to give a huge thanks to all the panelists. Thank you for sharing your experience and dropping the knowledge and gems, and for staying this long too. I know that it was a long conversation, but we are extremely grateful for the work that you guys are all doing and how you guys are contributing to the culture.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today. Thank you to our sponsor, Red Rose Vodka. Thanks to Jenny, our incredible moderator. Thanks to all of our panelists for your time. I know we went a little over, but you're all incredible. And I just hope that, you know, people were able to get something from all the amazing things you guys said tonight. And thanks, of course, to all of our attendees who stuck it out with us. Thanks a lot again, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you. Feel free to reach out if you guys need any support or help.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.